Okay, so hello everyone. Today is Sunday, August the 27th, and I'm really excited because today Richard Josey is here and he is going to um, give us a new program and it's called CBEARS. He'll explain that to us, exactly what that means. And so, Richard, you can go ahead and take it away if you want to. You can begin in prayer, or you can have someone else give the prayer, or
Yeah, can I get
you can
somebody?
start your program. Whatever is going to be easiest and better for you.
Yeah, let me get somebody to start us up in prayer. Mama Harriet, you mind getting us started?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Let us close our eyes, sit tall, taking a deep, cleansing breath, absorbing all the positive ions floating around in the air. And as we exhale, we let go of all the negativity, stresses, and anything that might be disturbing us. Just let it go. Open our hearts, our minds, our ears, and anything else that needs any other of the chakras that need opening so that we can absorb this information that's being given to us today and use it for the betterment of ourselves, our homes, our communities, our state and our nation, and the universe. And we are grateful for this time that we have together. And I say, so it is.
And so it is.
So it is. So thank you so much.
Mhm.
For our time today, generally when I do these sort of presentations, especially through the collective journeys, and for just for awareness, I run an organization called Collective Journeys, and we've just gone through and redid our mission and vision statement, and what we've sort of identified. No, what we have identified and what we know for a fact right now is that our movement is geared around creating spaces for belonging and wellness. And we find that to be very interesting because that allows us to tap into the space that we're generally in, diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion, which speaks to belonging, but it also speaks to degree of wellness, the means by which how trauma impacts the reality that we see. That oftentimes diversity and inclusion efforts and how we just are inclusive with each other, how we are accepting of the fact that we are as much of a collective as we are, part of a collective as we are an individual, that a lot of that really rests on, you know, where people are situated and how they see reality. Whether it's them actively, choosing the reality, or whether they're just reacting to. And this isn't, sort of a linear sort of thing that we flow in and out of those spaces, throughout our lives. And so in part with that sort of approach that we're taking at looking at, our work in terms of belonging and wellness, one of the things that has become really interesting to me is thinking about practical solutions to dealing with the challenges that we have. I won't say challenges, but the situations and circumstances that we endure on a day-to-day basis. When I speak of circumstances, and talk about it in this sort of space, people oftentimes go to the negative experiences that they've had. But what I want to say is that today we're going to talk about maybe we'll explore, examples of negative experiences, but we'll also explore positive experiences. But before I get too far into this, in my work, every session, every time that I step out, I consult Divine and I work to understand what is it that I want people to know, what is it that I want them to feel, and what is it that I want them to do as a result of the time that we have today. And so what Divine has given me is that I want you all to leave today knowing a way, a method by which how we can achieve positivity and how we can find harmony in our daily lives. What I want y'all to feel, and Divine was very clear about this: rebirth. There is a death to the old way of which how we operate and how we function. And at the end of this, I want you all to see that balance between the death of the old and the rebirth, the birth of new. And lastly, what I want you all to do is just really tap in and see how we can become even more regal. How this approach might help us to gain some degree of wisdom. But also how it, presents a space for us to be nurturing to ourselves and with each other. And that's important because 1 in 4 people experience a mental health issue in any given year. There's 16 million US adults who have had one major depressive episode in the last year. In the US, over 1 million workers call in sick for stress every day. And stress accounts for 50% of all work-related illnesses across Europe even. And so the problem is that most people don't know or appropriately apply tools for maintaining or improving their mental health and their well-being. And so this is what attracted me to what I'm calling the CBEARS. And well, I'm not calling it. That's the way it was presented. In some cases, it's called the BEAR model. Other cases, it's called, the CBEARS model. And so I'll break down each of these. The C stands for circumstance. A circumstance is something that's outside of your control. It is, other people. It can be your past. But this, in and of itself, is generally viewed as a neutral fact. When a situation happens, before we get into interpreting what that means, stay at the high level and see it for what it is. And then it's the circumstance. Something like somebody didn't call you back. Well, that's the fact. That's neutral. That's not about why they didn't call you back or how that made you feel. No. It's just the fact that they didn't call you back. Maybe another example of that is I don't know, a circumstance. Somebody bumped into you by accident. Somebody bumped into you while you was in the store. Before we start to add on any meaning or anything of that nature, the circumstance that's outside of your control involves other people, maybe involves your past, but it is a neutral fact. So then that's the C of the CBEARS. The B is the belief. It is a one-sentence thought that gives meaning to the circumstance. So if the circumstance is that somebody didn't call you back, then your belief is sort of this one-sentence thought that gives meaning to why they didn't call you back. Or they didn't call me back because they don't think it was worth it. Or they didn't call me back because they too busy taking care of everybody else. Or they didn't call me back because they got kids they got to feed and they got to go to the store and they just got their own lives, right? So the belief that we have, it's a choice. And oftentimes we overlook the fact that it's a choice because we are operating in automatic responses. And this is why mindfulness, and this is why I practice meditation regularly. So that's the B, belief. The E is the emotion. It's one word that articulates how you feel. It's the vibration in your body. It is stemming from that belief. And so your circumstance, the circumstance happens, you have a belief, and that belief causes an emotion. So if the circumstance is somebody didn't call you back, and if your belief is that they just aren't thinking about you, then your emotion could be anger. Your emotion could be sadness. If if your belief of that circumstance is that, well, they're busy and they'll call me back, then your emotion is going to be different. Your emotion just might be content. Your emotion may be pleased because you are you recognize that you're not in a state where you are being impacted. So that's E, that's the emotion. So we have C as in circumstance, B for belief, E for emotion. And what comes next is the A, and that's the action. It's your behavior. It's what you do or what you don't do. So again, I'm gonna back it up. The circumstance is that somebody didn't call you back. Your belief maybe is that they dismissed you. Your emotion is that you're angry. And so then what might your action be? Your action might be, well, when they call me back, I'm not going to answer the phone. Or when they call me back, I'm gonna let them know. I'm gonna let them know what I think about them. I'm gonna let them know about themselves. In the same vein, if they didn't call you back, and your belief is that they are taking care of their business, and your emotion is a sense of commitment, then your actions will reflect that. Your behavior will reflect that. And so, lastly, there's the R. The R is the result. It's you get, basically the result is you get what you want or you don't get what you want, but it's a direct loop back to your belief. So if the circumstance is that they didn't call you back, your belief is that they dismissed you, your emotion is that you're angry, your action is that you're going to tell them about themselves, your result may be a fractured relationship that then would circle back around to justify your belief that they dismissed you. Y'all see, I'm going to pause for a moment and I want to let that settle to see if that's resonated with you all. If you all see this interconnection between a circumstance that happens, which is a neutral fact, which is outside of your past, outside of your control. It involves other people. It can involve your past, and how that circumstance happens. And what we tend to do is we determine our belief, our emotion, our action, and our result. Does everybody understand that? Questions?
Yes,
or thoughts?
Sandy.
Say again, I'm sorry. Forrest, did you say something?
No, I said I'm enjoying what you're saying. I can relate to everything you're saying.
Beautiful, thank you.
Oh, and I was going, well, I can hop in, right now. This is first of all, we just talked about beliefs yesterday. And this is one of the things that we had been talking about, is that, it's such a continuity between subjects that always that, so we know that we're on the right track. But this is so spot on to
Yes,
how we humans respond to one another. Because like you were saying, if somebody's has belief has turned into they don't like me, and then just because they're minding their own business, you can tell how people jump to conclusions based on only what they think they know. And when I have jumped to that conclusion, I'm going to treat you according only to how I feel. And most of the time, that's why when Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself, it's so valuable and so important that we love ourselves. Because we cannot love our neighbor unless we really love ourselves. And based on your CBEARs, because we were trying to figure out what the acronym was,
right?
But based on your CBEAR's response, this is spot on human nature.
Yes. I have, since I found this 2 weeks ago, I have been in a perpetual state every single day of looking at different things that happen in the course of a day and then really inspecting, what do I believe? What are my beliefs? Like, what happens is the circumstance will happen, and then I'll end up feeling some type of way. And then I have to pause and I say, okay, let me look back at the circumstance for what it is. And now let me break down, what is it that I believe about this circumstance that's happening? Oh, and that now explains why I'm feeling the way I do. And usually at that point in time, I pause before I make an action, because I'm realizing that my belief is grounded in my ego.
Mhm.
My belief is highlighting the unhealed or unresolved issues that are within my life. And so this is why I found myself in a position where I'm living a life of placing no judgment on other people, and spending more time processing, what is it that's going on in my mind that's causing me to believe, think, feel, the way that I do. And I'll also share, before I open it up to hear from, Harriet, and see if Joanne is picking this up. But something that just got revealed to me yesterday after my amazing Reiki session that I had with this lady in Yorktown. I came out of it, and the first thing that hit me was, what I had to understand is in terms of the difference between thought and thinking. And from a spiritual standpoint, the way it was explained to me is that thought is what it is that comes from the divine. This comes from the inner being. That this is truth, right? And what happens is, we get so caught up in our automatic approaches that thought comes in, the thought says, I should call so-and-so. But the thinking then starts to speak in. Yeah, she's probably not up right now. Or if I call her, then I'm gonna sound desperate. Or if I call that, and all of the thoughts, all of the thinking that happens from the ego that causes you to dismiss what it is that's coming from divine, especially in it. And it's a thought. It's a thought when you are sitting in peace and calm and no mind. The Buddhists talk about no mind, those moments when there is no thinking that's going on. If that's when you are in your purest state, is when you are not sitting back thinking about, okay, what I'm gonna do after this, or what I gotta do next, or what is it that hasn't gotten done, or what so-and-so said 2 weeks ago. That when you allow all that thinking to go to the side, now you are at no mind. And at that space, when you don't have thoughts, anything that comes to you is, I'm taking it as something that's coming from divine, something that's really coming through me. That has really taken me on a whole nother plane, at least within the last 24 hours. So I just wanted to, I know I digress. I wanted to lay that out, but Mama Harriet, what you thinking? How you feel about the CBEARs?
I like this. I really do. And the thing about it is, the circumstance. I've been on this planet and had enough experiences over the years to realize, and I'm constantly telling people, especially older people, when they look at young people and are critical of their behavior or their actions or judging them. And I said, well, what did you do when you were that age? And what it helped, what the CBEARS helps me to realize is that as long as a circumstance first of all, and always triggers a judgment. But what I try to do is dismiss that judgment and question, okay, what is the, going on with that person? What is the circumstance within their environment or their life or whatever the situation might be to cause them to act in such a way? And until I have that explanation where I can understand what's going on with them, it just, I just refuse to get upset. I'm not I'm not an A-type personality, so things don't disturb me as quickly as it does an A-type person. And I'm not saying they don't disturb me, they do. But I try not to let it disturb me. And if it does, I try to count to 4, take a deep breath, count to 4, you know, to calm down, bring in that peace that I need in order to confront whatever the circumstance might be.
No, I appreciate that. And just a deviation, that the way that we think about a circumstance is when we think about it as a neutral fact. What I would suggest to that is that it's not the circumstance that triggers us, it's our belief about the circumstance.
Right.
Just clarifying, because I think what this is really causing us to do and helping us to do, and this is probably the toughest part, is separating the belief from the circumstance. You know, the idea of being able to see it for what it is before we attach meaning to it, before it, you know, what does it look like before it causes us to feel some type of way. And then the flip of all of that is also acknowledging that what someone else does, that's one thing. Our reaction to that, we have a couple of choices. One is we can start looking at them and trying to figure them out, which kind of leads us into our human need to understand or to know. But the flip, and what I'm really working through right now is thinking of it in the opposite way, which is, it's not about them, it's about me. What's going on inside of me that's causing me to react to this in a certain way? Are there expectations? Did I expect somebody to operate in a way in which they didn't, and now I'm feeling some type of way because you didn't do right? And this is the path that I've been finding, that I've been led to, that helps me to get out of the rigid sort of thinking in terms of what's good and bad, what's moral and immoral, that to basically just see things for what they are, and then inspect what is it that I believe about what it is that I'm seeing that causes me to feel the type of way that I do. Because ultimately, I'm really concerned about what are the results of my actions, of my, you know, of this whole process. You know, what is it that's going to be the outcome of it? Miss Joanna. Oh, I'm sorry, Harriet.
No, go ahead.
I was going to see if Miss Joanne had something, but I think Forrest also has something too. So I'm going to step back and just and listen to y'all.
Okay. I'm in the situation what I'm going through right now.
I think you're breaking up.
So Forrest, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Just to let you know. So we're gonna move on to Joanne, if you don't mind, and if you can come
Can you hear
in.
me?
Then, okay, we can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that better?
Yes.
Oh,
and it's just
we lost him.
Together.
We lost them all together now.
So you have any thoughts, Joanne?
Came in late, so thoughts on what? And first of all, hello everyone.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay.
On anything that Richard's been talking about.
Well, the tail end that
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Forrest, if you can talk.
The thinking. So I'm going from the divine, which is the thoughts, which is the north, the truth. But then when I start putting all these negative things, and then I start thinking, what if? That's when I start attaching negatives of what could be, instead of listening to what God says.
Yeah, no, exactly right. That's exactly the way that I've started to take it. And I just have to say it is a complete switch, like night and day. And it's at least armed me with a sense of clarity and confidence in me that I don't need external validation.
Mhm.
I don't need all those sorts of things. That if I spend more time just being mindful and allowing the thoughts to just move out and being in that content space, that now I can recognize and accept the messages from divine, and then also recognize and understand the thinking that happens after that. Divine say, go to Walmart, then I'm gonna go to Walmart, rather than sit around and try to find a whole bunch of reasons why I shouldn't go to Walmart. Right? And I think every single one of us has had this moment when we've had the voice, the thought, the knowing, the belief, there's something to hit us that is strong. And we
Yes.
then find every reason to, rather than step out in the heart space, we get out of the mind, out of the logic, and start to talk ourselves around into this sort of roller coaster.
Hamster wheel.
And when we do that, then we get comfortable with the hamster wheel rather than being comfortable in being present. So no, I thank you for saying that. And again, Ms. Joanne, I'm gonna call you New York, because every time you talk, I'm like, ooh, that's my New York buddy right there. So, but what we're talking about here is, a way, a model by which how we can navigate through, situations. And so on any given day, there's a circumstance that happens. It's neutral. It's outside of our control. It's basically something that's happening from other people or from our past. An example that I use is somebody didn't call you back. And so based off of them not calling you back, and then it gets into the bears. So it's CBEARs. C is the circumstance. The B is the belief. So if somebody didn't call you back, what's your belief as to why they didn't? That's the story that we create around it. And then that leads into our emotion, which is how we feel about it. And then that leads into the A, which is action, because we have the belief, and then we have the feeling that then leads to how we act. And then we get to the R, which is the result, where you either get what you want or you don't get what you want. But what oftentimes happens is the result of whatever that circumstance is, it comes back and it supports our belief. And when you hear people talk about the self-fulfilling prophecy, that's it. That if you believe that you're not worthy, then everything that happens is going to reflect back to you this idea and support that idea that you're not worthy. Many people talk about it being like the law of attraction. That these thoughts, these beliefs, these opinions, what we put out and what we invest our intention towards, it creates this loop. And this process, the CBEARS method, is a way in which I have now can confidently say is a practical approach and a tool to get you out of the thought loop.
Okay. Thank you for that, Richard.
No problem. No problem.
I must have been going through, I've been transitioning in my life, because life is a storm for all of us. As we have our up days, our down days. But I've learned to stay calm in situations where I dealt with this without getting upset. What you mean? I don't want to get rattled like that no more. I'm learning to walk away from different situations.
Right.
Not hiding them now, but just walking away. I don't let the outside world control me anymore.
Right.
And that can be difficult some days. But it's all about staying calm within yourself.
Right. No, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think that's the tough part. Especially when we oftentimes live our lives on autopilot.
Oh, yes.
And so a trauma that you experienced 30 years ago never goes away. And if you
No.
haven't figured out how to navigate that or to accept that in your being, and how you, like, when I come across situations, my old trauma is still there. The question and the opportunity that I have is, am I going to allow my actions to be through the lens of the trauma?
Yes.
Or am I going to do it otherwise? You know, in terms of the divinity that resides in me, right?
You know, a good example, and I'll make it brief, is my grandson lost his mate in May. He was 31 because he just made 32 in August. I lost my husband at the age of 27. Two different situations, you cannot compare. But I went down to the depths of my soul and say, how do I express myself to him and to keep him holding on? And I said, Aunt, his name is Anthony. I call him Aunt. I'm not feeling what you feeling, babe, but I know your pain. You will survive this. I will not tell you that time will take it away, because it never will go away, but you will learn to live with it. You know, and he's having a rough time, Richard. I mean, a rough time. You know, like I'm ready to see her. Hey, no, you can't be talking like that, even thinking like that right now, Ant-Man. You know, you got three little beings that need you in this world with them. You know, so life can be difficult. And I never tell a person, oh, time will heal it. No, God has taught me to live with different things. Like I don't know if any of y'all know it, if I've expressed it to y'all. I no longer have a sibling or mother or father walking this earth. You know, I feel them surrounding me at periods to hold me up, right? But I never would have thought that I'd be here on this earth without a mother, a father, or any sibling. It was just me and my brother. You know, and sometimes, excuse me, y'all, sometimes when I think about it, and I say, oh, no, Joanne, you can't get into that, because you know they gone. You have to keep living on until it's your time. I just wanted to say that to y'all.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. So I want to do. Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, I have a question.
Sure.
You know, the CBEAR's model, you can see how that is, you know, history, you know, societies, everybody's, nations have been built on different types of trauma. I mean, I have never had a war outside of my house, so when we think about the trauma that society brings us and the beliefs that we have based on the emotion that we got from whatever societal trauma. I mean, is that one of the things that causes like things like racism and sexism and all of the isms,
Yeah.
And so we can do it individually, but how do you think that we can do it as a society? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I think one of the things that the message that I received, because I actually processed this myself when I was thinking about this, because this is actually, y'all know me. This is the second time in front of y'all. What I'm prototyping with y'all is what I'm getting ready to release to the people.
Right.
And what the message that I received is that focus less on trying to impact the collective and focus more on impacting individuals, because when that individual consciousness takes place, then a couple of things can happen. One is y'all learn this, y'all start employing it, and then other people see how y'all are shifting or navigating things in a particular way. Y'all are able to show other people. And so then, each individual person that accepts and understands, the tenets around this, it helps to shift the collective consciousness.
Because
And
then
so
we are the collective.
exactly.
Yes, yeah.
So
Okay, I can
so
see that. You're right.
and so I'm also thinking about, you know, other ways in which because I think workshopping this helps ingrain it into our way of being, right? Like it's a tool, and it's almost like the session, the time that we have today is practice, and you all hopefully will take it and practice it,
right,
you know, through the week, so that you can be ready for the big game, which is that circumstance, that situation. Yes, Ms. Harriet.
So Richard, what you're saying is whatever circumstance we find ourselves in, we practice it on ourselves and try and practice it ourselves, and depending on how successful we are or how peaceful and calm it makes us, so that others can see that peace and calmness within us, it will make them curious as to what they can do to go to that same level that we are at the present. Is that
exactly? Because remember, I told y'all what I wanted y'all to leave with knowing today is how this thing can help you get a greater state of positivity and find harmony. Wanted y'all to feel the sense of the death of the old way, that this is a way where we don't have to keep going into the automatic responses, right? And when you allow that to die, it makes room for the rebirth, the new you to step out, that then is now more mindful, more considerate, compassionate, not just to others, but also to yourself.
Right.
And lastly, the thing what I'm finding from this is, you know, I've been finding in my life, I feel that I've gained a certain level of wisdom. I feel more real now than I have been. But I have always been nurturing. And this approach has just allowed me to not just have grace for people, but for me to really think about what is the story that I'm writing about the things that I'm seeing that's happening in front of me. Because I do have a history of looking at something happening to me rather than something happening for me. Everything that's happened in my life, the traumas, the betrayals, all those sorts of things, I'm so thankful for those, because if I didn't have those moments, then this wouldn't have caught my attention, and it wouldn't have been presented to me in a way so that I can figure out how to fix me, test it out and work it, and then be able to come in front of other people and say, hey, try this out. This gonna take you somewhere. So I will say that the biggest struggle in going through the CBEARs, and before the end of our time today, I'm gonna actually take y'all through a couple of exercises, and we'll create a scenario, and then I'll allow you all to think about your beliefs and your emotions and your actions and results. I got a whole package for that, but one of the toughest things is for us to see a circumstance and understand it as a neutral fact. Like I was saying earlier, automatically what happens is something happens, and we go from something happening to the emotion, like that. And when we pause and we break it down and take it into slow motion, then we might be able to look back at that circumstance and say, hey, wait a minute, let's look at the circumstance for what it is, rather than what I've created it to be and have already started to react to. So I'm going to read off a few statements, and I want y'all to tell me, and remember, circumstances are neutral facts. So I'm going to read off a list of statements, and I want y'all to tell me, is this a circumstance or not? So you can just say yes or no. All right. So first, my boss is difficult to work for. Yes or no? Circumstance or not?
I say no.
I would say no. I say no, because that's like a judgment.
I hear two no's. Did I hear three no's?
No.
Forrest got a no too?
I'm saying yes.
Why you say yes?
When you say your boss is difficult to work with, that's a circumstance. They are
But
under pressure. They may not want to be there at their job, but have
right.
to be.
But what I want to remind you is that when we're talking about circumstances here, we're talking about a neutral fact that has no
Okay.
judgment whatsoever.
No.
All right.
And this is the key part, because then when we're able to take a statement like that and recognize whether it's neutral or not, then that helps us to really dig into what our belief is. Because what I would say is that my boss is difficult to work with for is more of a belief than a circumstance.
Yeah.
I want to try another one. My employee is so hard to manage. Yes or no?
Circumstance.
You saying it is a circumstance?
I think it's a circumstance.
I say no. That's the same thing like the boss.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And what makes this less of a circumstance is the fact that someone has determined that they're hard to manage. Because they might not be hard to manage for somebody else.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
Now,
on you.
Right. Let me give you another one. I have an employee.
Oh, yeah, that's a circumstance.
That's a circumstance.
Circumstance.
Yeah. So y'all starting to let me keep it going. I love my job.
Okay.
Is that a circumstance, like a neutral fact, or is that a judgment?
Neutral.
That's a judgment.
Yeah, because that's a judgment. Because that's a belief, right?
Right.
I believe, I believe I love my job.
Right.
Because it's me. Yeah.
Right. Now,
So that's a belief, right?
that's more exactly. That's a belief. Now, if I were to take this sentence, I love my job, how could I change that around to make that a neutral fact? Just a circumstance.
I said circumstance because some things are uncontrollable.
Well, but the thing is that the circumstance is outside of your
just say,
control.
I work at this job.
I work at this job. I have a job.
I have a
that
job.
is exactly, that is a neutral fact. When you, and again, when you're thinking about the circumstance, take the emotion out of it and present it as no matter how anybody looks at it, it's truth.
Right.
I have a job.
Right, yeah.
Like a couple of examples, like I love my job. I hate my job. I'm not enough. I am enough. I'm lovable. I'm bad at managing people. I'm stressed out and overwhelmed. All of that.
All beliefs.
All of that is beliefs.
All that,
But see, what happens is when a situation, the job happens, you go immediately to I hate my job. And then we get into our emotions and we get into our actions, and then we get the results. And in many cases, following that thread, we're not going to get the results that we want, because all they're going to do is reinforce the fact of why you hate your job. Right? If you live with this belief, if something happens, if a circumstance happens and you immediately go to I'm not enough, then you ain't even looking at the circumstance no more, because you're already in your belief about yourself, which then will make you feel some type of way and then act some type of way. And then the results of that is just going to supplement the fact and bring you closer to realizing or making you feel like you're not enough. Now, I'm gonna give a couple more examples, because this is one of those tough pieces, because what we're talking about is looking at the term circumstance and really confining it to just a neutral fact, a fact that is a truth that no matter how you look at it is true, and that it doesn't have any emotion or meaning attached to it. So like working from home is the best. Is that a circumstance or no?
No.
No.
I think
No.
It's a circumstance.
Forrest, were you saying that you thought it was a circumstance?
Yes, because it's uncontrollable.
It is uncontrollable, but does it have emotion attached to it? Working from home is the worst?
Yes. It does have an emotion attached to it.
That's why I'm asking Forrest to see if he see that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Because a lot of times people enjoy loving to work at home, working. I mean, I prefer working at home than going to the 9 to 5. I prefer going to an outside job. So
Right.
that could be circumstance. Mm-hmm.
Right. But what I want you to think about is when you say working from home is the worst, if when we look at that sentence, the
Mhm.
judgment or
It's
the
worse.
emotion is the fact that it's the worst, that you've already decided that it's the worst. And
Mhm.
so
Right.
again, it may be the worst for you, but it's not the worst for somebody else.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
But the way I would flip that, the way that I could make that neutral
I'm
without
working from home.
I work from home.
Okay. Just what we say.
Right.
Words have power.
Exactly.
Words speak power. Yes.
Exactly. In the museum world, one of the examples that I've been telling people, and that's why I'm just so I know this was divine. I was divinely guided to this because I've been saying this for the last 4 years, that in the history world that I work in, we have circumstances where Thomas Jefferson wrote A, B, and C. And so what people do, and that's a circumstance, that's a neutral fact. He wrote it.
Mhm.
But what people will do then is take that and go automatically to, well, Thomas Jefferson believed all men were created equal. Well, why you say he believed that? Because he wrote it? Do you know how many people write stuff that they don't believe?
Right.
Like, how many times do we go on social media and we see people write stuff and we know that that's not what you believe, or your actions are different than your beliefs?
Right.
Right.
Right. So this is again one of those things of really clearly defining and being clear about the circumstance and seeing it for what it is,
Yes.
without the emotion, without the judgment, without the meaning. It's the difference between my mother-in-law is my friend and I have a mother-in-law,
Mhm.
or my mother-in-law is so frustrating versus I have a mother-in-law.
So how words have power.
Words always have power. And
Mhm.
and in order to understand, to see the circumstance, we've got to rethink the story that we connect to the circumstance that we see, because we are
Mhm.
automatic. A situation happens and we immediately attach meaning to it.
Gotcha.
And so what I'm suggesting, or what I'm pushing, is that when the situation happens, pause. Because what's going to make you pause is your emotion.
Mhm.
You see something happen or you experience something and you feel some way, and when you feel some way, automatically pause. Okay, I'm feeling this way. Let me pause. Let me back up. What's the circumstance? And let me take out the way that I'm feeling about it.
Mhm.
So-and-so, Joe, didn't pick me up at 8:30. That's a fact. We can prove that. Joe did not pick me up at 8:30. Okay. Well, what do I believe about Joe not picking me up at 8:30? Do I believe that he was just careless? Do I believe that he just don't give a damn? Do I believe, like, what are the beliefs that we have around that then promote the emotion that we feel?
Okay.
So what you're saying is for us to always stop and think before we react.
Exactly. Yes. Like the way that I've been doing it.
Where that belong?
The way that I've been doing it is because I'm now recognizing the automatic.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that
When you say the automatic, you mean the reaction or the emotion?
What I'm talking about is the automatic thought process between the situation happens and then I feel some type of way.
How to react to the situation.
Right? Like automatically, when things happen, we immediately react. In our emotion, you immediately feel an emotion, unless you're present.
Think after.
Right. And so what I'm saying is, when you feel that emotion, pause. That use that as a symbol of pause.
Okay.
And let's go back now and let's relook at the situation. Let's take away the meaning. Let's make it neutral, where it's true no matter who looks at it. And then look at what your belief is about that.
Yeah, because Job might have got into an accident. You don't know what his circumstances was for
Exactly.
you to react and get so upset. Got you.
Exactly. And when we do that, again, it just puts us in a position to pause and have grace. And it also puts us in a position to not be hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I see and what I've experienced is that somebody does something and I'm triggered. I'm feeling some type of way. I'm in my emotion. And then I might act in a way and get a result without even realizing that I do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that I'm expecting Joe was late picking me up. I'm mad. Well, geez, how many times have I been late picking somebody up? Right? And sometimes my lateness was justified. I was pulled over by the police. Right? Or this happened or that happened. And then there are also times when I was late because I was lollygagging around. So I recognize that about me. But when I look at somebody else and when they do it, I might struggle to give them the same type of grace that I would want somebody to give me.
Okay.
And so this, I think, is a say again. I'm sorry.
I said, do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Right. And so this is a process that also helps us to, establish a level of compassion and grace for folks, and also see the bigger picture that we are all on a interconnected journey. We are all going up these stairs. And as we learn these lessons, like, be mindful, you go up the stairs, you don't come down. If anything, you just stay on the same stair until you learn the lesson and then you keep going.
Right.
So when something does happen to you, have grace for yourself. You're not falling back because you've already learned that lesson. You've already healed from that lesson. Now we're talking about growth.
Right.
So I want to, kind of transition here a bit. And this is the way I want y'all to think about it. What I want to do is I want to develop a circumstance, and I want y'all to think about, what is your belief? What is your one sentence thought about that circumstance? And then we'll talk about that. And then we'll come back and we'll do an emotion, and we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about an action and do that, and then talk about a result. I want you, and as we go through this process the first time, I want you to think about it in terms of just who you are right now. If y'all know me, I'm always asking the question, what kind of ancestor will you be? So I'm always challenging people to consider not just who you are now, but also who you are becoming. So we'll go through it the first time in terms of who you are now, and then we'll transition and go through it again in a different way, using the person that you are becoming. So I could create a scenario, but I want to kind of open it up to y'all. And maybe there's something that some of you all are going through in terms of a situation that might, what is a circumstance? And again, trying to be neutral. What is a circumstance that we might use to collectively go through today? Does anybody have anything?
I can't think of one right now.
Does anybody have anything that's troubling them today that you are willing to?
I don't have a car.
Okay.
My car
Okay.
died on me, so I don't have a car.
Okay. Let's try that one out. I don't have a car.
Mm-hmm.
That's a neutral fact, right, everybody?
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's provable. It's measurable. It's observable. No matter what
Yeah.
angle you look at it from. You don't have a car. All right. So if your circumstance is that you don't have a car, what do you believe about that? What is that? What might that make you believe?
A belief about that. Well, the car died on me. That's why I don't have a car.
Mm-hmm.
I have a strong negative emotion about that. I hate not having
I have one
one. I
next.
hate it. I hate it.
Talk to me about that,
But
Penny.
I
that's
do.
the emotion. You're asking for the belief, right?
I'm asking for the belief. Yeah, I was getting ready.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to move her back up to the belief. and Penny, you see, when I told y'all earlier how quick, how easy it is to go from a circumstance to an emotion.
To the emotion, yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
But my thoughts was when she said she didn't have a car, and I was gonna ask her, well, have you been planning, have you been saving for another car? Do you want another car?
Right. So what I would say is a potential belief is that if the circumstances that I don't have a car, then my belief may be that I haven't been wise with my money.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hello?
My belief may be that again, it's when we think about the belief, we're thinking about like this is where we start to get into the type of judgments that we make about the circumstance.
Mhm.
Right. So if you say that you don't have a car, let me ask it a different way. What is a judgment that you might have regarding not having a car?
What's a judgment?
Okay, I'm next.
Right now,
Sorry.
right now, I'm kind of debating because to get around, either I call on friends or I call Uber. And
You're going too far down. I just want you
okay,
to tell me the judgment. Don't have a car? What does that mean? What's the judgment?
it means I have to depend on somebody else
Mm-hmm. Okay.
to get me from point A to point B if it's not within walking distance.
Okay. Actually, let's
Okay,
keep going with that.
ask,
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
how long have you been without a car, Harriet?
It's been over a year.
But then that's telling me, now I judged automatically. I'm judging now. Is that you don't want another car if it's been over a year?
And that's up for debate as far as I'm concerned.
No, I'm just saying. I'm
yeah,
just,
and I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
in my mind, I'm saying, well, she really doesn't want another car. If you go on
Maybe you can't
for a
afford it.
whole year without a car, that's all.
Right. Yes, that's a belief. I heard Forrest say you can't afford it. That's a belief, right?
Mhm.
Well,
So, Penny.
because I mean, because that was, she hit the nail right on the head, because I'm in the same situation, and for years I didn't care, especially like during the pandemic, and even after that, I didn't care whether I had a car or not. It didn't really matter to me. But now this year, I'm just sick of sitting at the house. I really can't stand it anymore, and I'm to that, I am to that point where, okay, this is, it's ready for this to happen now.
Right.
But I can see the progression in the situation, and I don't know whether it was built on a belief. Like for me, maybe for me, it was still all built on emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't believe that I was like not worthy of a car or didn't need a car, or I didn't have a belief like that. I didn't want. It felt good not paying for car insurance and
buying
taxes
gas.
and
But
stuff like that, and buying gas and all of that.
but
All
Penny,
of
what
that.
I would say is that in there is a belief, but again, the belief may not be negative, right? Like your belief might
Right.
be
Yeah.
like my belief is that I'm happy without a car.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like again,
Uh-huh.
when we say judgment, we oftentimes think of judgments always being negative, but
Negative.
judgments really
Mhm.
are about the story that we attach to the circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if we say that the circumstance is not having a car Harriet, I'm going to use your example in terms of your belief is that you got to depend on somebody else. How does that make you feel that you got to depend on somebody else?
Not very adequate.
Not adequate.
Not the main thing is the being dependent and not being independent.
Right.
Oh,
As far
thank
as-
you. Thank you for that, because there was something that was not hitting me right with the belief. And I think that's the belief that I was looking for. It's not that you have to depend on somebody, but that your belief is that you're not independent, right?
Mhm.
That's the belief. Okay, so now let's bring it back now. If your belief is that you are not independent, how does that make you feel? One word. One word emotion. Huh?
A one word emotion.
Yeah, one word.
Inadequate.
Inadequate?
No.
I'll go with that. Okay.
For right now. That doesn't quite fit the bill for me
Right,
right
right.
now.
What about needy?
That's a tall one too. That's pretty
My
good.
one word is unbelief.
Say again for it.
Unbelief.
Unbelief.
Does that fit, Harriet?
No, not really.
Not with my situation.
Oh, got you. But if we say the circumstance is not having a car, the belief is that you're not independent, how do you feel about not being independent?
I've been put in those situations.
Caged.
Caged?
That's the word.
Limited.
I felt needy.
Yeah.
Caged, limited, needy.
Limited.
Yeah. See,
Limited.
so notice how, like I said before, in typical circumstances, what happens is you don't have your car, and then you're already at caged, limited, and needy. And why this is important is because it puts you in a position of going back and saying, okay, let me understand the circumstance. Okay, I don't have a car, but I feel these feelings. What is it that I believe about myself that would cause me to have these feelings? Or what is it that I believe about myself when I think about not having a car? Caged, limited, needy. And so if your emotions are caged, limited, and needy, what type of action might that have? What kind of behaviors? What do you do?
Find a solution that will allow me to be a little bit more free.
To gain my independence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I do, although, this is what creates the debate in my mind. Do I or don't I want another car? Because
I know for me,
because I can pick up the phone, call Uber, and within 15-20 minutes, I'm on my way to wherever it is I want to be.
Right. And I appreciate.
And I don't have to pay insurance. I don't have to pay for
solution.
gas.
Right.
And which is more costly? The maintenance and upkeep of a car, or taking Uber when I need to go someplace.
Right. And what I want to unpack on this is that we have to, beloveds, we have to be careful. Because even when I wrote down the action of finding a solution to gain independence, more often than not, we may go to, okay, I'm going to save my money and go get me a car. And sometimes it's not going back to the circumstance. Sometimes it's going within to question, do I even need a car?
Right.
Which makes this makes it so interesting, because then not having a car, you get into this belief of not being independent, which may make you feel caged, needy, or limited. And then you may immediately think that in order to be satisfied, I need to go and buy a car. And then you go buy a car, and now you got a car payment, and the results. You got a car payment, and you got insurance, and you got all these things you got to pay for. When really, you could have saved a whole lot of money and just did an Uber.
Okay.
Right. So it's that kind of process and that way of thinking about this that helps us break down and really consider. And for me, I've been finding for the last couple of weeks now that a lot of the circumstances that I faced that involve other people that have, rough emotions in me, that the more I processed it and worked it through, the more I realized that the issue, well, first of all, it's not a problem to be solved. In many cases, it was just a truth to be accepted. But in many ways, it wasn't the fact that they did something or didn't do something. It was the meaning that I attached to it, the story that I created, the expectation that I held over people, or I expected so-and-so to do X, Y, and Z, and they did A, B, and C. That going through this process helped me really think about what it is that I believe, and it helped me to place more emphasis on what I want as a result. That I want to be more results oriented in my in my being.
Okay.
I want to try.
What you said was that the results are exactly what your belief is. It's the answer to what the belief is. So all I really have to do is just change my belief, change what I believe about a thing,
Right.
and then I will have a completely different result. And
So that means if I change my belief, I'm gonna hit that lotto tomorrow.
mhm.
What let's talk about what your belief is. Is your belief that you're gonna hit the lotto tomorrow?
I was just being sarcastic. I was
No.
But I agree with that. We ain't gonna change that belief because we believe that. We don't have to believe that one unless
right.
I'm gonna call y'all one day and say, guess what, y'all?
I hit the lottery.
And that money.
Right.
yeah.
Right. So let me present to y'all a different circumstance. All right.
Go ahead.
This circumstance is that you were on the phone with somebody. The phone call was, y'all, it's getting a little tense, getting a little funky. Okay. And then all of a sudden, they ain't on the phone no more. So the circumstance is that somebody that you had a tough conversation with, they aren't on the phone anymore.
They hung up on you.
They hung up.
I didn't say they hung up. I just said that they not on the phone.
What happened?
So what's your belief? Before you try to figure out why they not on the phone, what's your belief?
They don't want to talk to me if they not on the phone.
Well, that's what did the phone line die? Drop the call, drop.
I think we about to get there. I think we got to get to that point, but let's break it down. Somebody not on the phone no more. Ms. Joanne, what'd you say your belief was? You think about the belief?
Yeah, well, I've had that happen the other day. I thought my daughter hung up, but the call dropped. Not the line, whatever line or whatever it dropped. And she called right back.
Right.
And I said, whoa, I didn't know what was going on. We both laughed about it.
Right. So,
but normal
pay the phone bill. Right. Like if the circumstances that somebody is not on the phone, and let's go with that. The belief is that they don't want to talk. So what kind of emotion comes from that?
Well, I'll tell you in my mind, I was like, wow. And then she called right back.
Right. But when you said, wow, what was the emotion? Is it frustration?
Like, yeah, it was. I said, what the hell is happening to myself?
And so if you hadn't figured out, she hadn't called back, what would your action have been?
Oh, my action would have been, I would have called her. We're not going to let that linger. Because I grew up, whereas if my mother got mad with me, she didn't talk to me, Right. And I tried to raise I've raised my children regardless of the differences, we don't just not talk to one another because we family.
Right.
Right. Right.
So you call her. What type
Yeah.
of vibe? Now, if she not on the phone no more, and if you believe that she don't want to talk, and you are frustrated, and you call her, what kind of energy do you have in that call?
Well, if I know if we both ended the call and I know that we're both frustrated with each other, I'll give each other time. And then, but they know I'm calling back.
Right.
Yeah, and what I'm getting to is that not only are you gonna call her, but that call is gonna have some energy to it.
Yeah.
It's gonna have some energy. It's gonna have some heat to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You're gonna be
depending on
angry.
who it is that you're talking to,
Mhm.
that result from that heat that you bring to the conversation might not be what you want. That result could very easily support the idea that they didn't want to talk.
Okay.
Right? Like we've been in those circumstances before. And then maybe 3-4 weeks down the road, when you're finally talking again, you realize, oh, you just lost connection and you had trouble getting back on the phone. But
Right.
we done spent 3 weeks harboring beef and anger because you know what I'm saying, because of the situation that happened. So I just want to pause. Is this making sense to y'all?
Yes.
Yes.
Making sense to me.
Yes.
Okay. So this is who you are now. Now I want to, and the reason why I wanted to pause and check to make sure clarity of that is because I want to do it a different way. Because I find that when we begin to really tap into, when we understand who we are now, we generally recognize that there are some things that we want to change and improve, that there is something greater that we're aspiring to be.
Yeah.
And so when I think about the Richard that I'm becoming, and I think about the CBEAR's method, where I start with the circumstance and then I go into the belief and then the emotion and then to the action and to the result. When I start thinking about with my higher self, the person that I'm becoming, when the circumstance hits, I've now gotten to a point now where I'm reconfiguring and beginning with what is the result that I want.
Right.
So
In other words, who do I want to be down the road?
Well, what I want this situation to turn into because of who I'm going to be down the road. You see the difference?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use the same example that we just had where it's a heated moment. You're on the phone. You're talking to somebody. All of a sudden, they not on the phone no more. Okay. Well, what is the end result that you want of just all of that? And just thinking, and again, make that decision based off of the person that you want to be, your ideal self. Your ideal self is on the phone with somebody and you're tense and it's heated and they're not on the phone no more. And before we talk about their beliefs, emotions, and actions, what do you want to get out of this?
What I want to get out of, we both started. What I would like to get out of it for me in the future is that's the one we talk about now, right? It's for us to agree on how we can agree not to disagree, for us to both to come to us understanding that we can disagree and do it with respect for one another.
Right.
That's how, that would be the new me.
Okay. We can, what I'll write down is we can agree to disagree.
Yes.
Okay. So if we say that our ideal selves in this situation where somebody's not on the phone no more during a tense, conversation, and ultimately what we want the result to be is understanding that we can agree to disagree, then what sort of belief do you need to have about that person not being on the phone in order to, like, I'm trying to piece together the puzzle. You got your circumstance and you got your end result. What belief do we need to have about that circumstance to get that end result?
I believe the belief you gotta have is that you
make sure that
that they respect, that, you know, that we respect one another. I know that whoever I'm have going through this with, that I'm talking to, that we have a mutual respect for one another.
Right. Forrest, you were about to say something?
For me, it's understanding that sometimes I don't always know what's going on with that person. May not be with me, but to always, for me, give it some time before I come back and say, "Are you okay?" For me, it's give the person time before we have communication again.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So if the belief is that, and I'm gonna use the one, Joanne, that you brought up, which is we respect each other. So if somebody's not on the phone, tense conversation, if we didn't believe that we respect each other, then what sort of emotion do you have when they're not on the phone?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
A very negative emotion.
Well, but wait, you said that your belief is that you respect each other.
Oh yeah, I thought you said if we didn't have it.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. And again, looking at your higher self, your ideal self, they're not on the phone, and you believe, even though they're not on the phone no more, you believe that we respect each other. So how do you feel?
Okay, well, I'm thinking right now, hey, I know we love each other. We just got to give each other time. That's how I feel. You know, I know we got that love in there, so we give it each other time, and we'll come back together.
Got you. And then what might be your action based off of that? If you know you love each other and you'll come back in time, what will your action be? You'll give them time to call back, or
let them have that space.
Let them have that space.
I let them have the space in the beginning because, like I said, I've been in them situations.
Right.
You know, I'm just talking about with family.
Sure.
I don't have no friends that I've really fell out with. Look, B, I ain't talking to you. I've not went through that drama.
Right. Now, you'll notice that now things change a little bit when we move from Miss Joanne's example to Forrest's example. Because think of it again, somebody not being on the phone, no longer during this tense sort of conversation. If we have this belief that something happened that I'm just not aware of, then the emotion is a bit different. Your emotion might be concerned, right? Your action may be, well, I'm not going to give him space. I'm assuming, I'm believing that there's something that's going on that's outside of my purview. Like maybe they were driving and they drove through a dead area, right? So then your action might be that you call them back. And the result may be that you still can, come to this sort of understanding. It may not be, in this case, I wouldn't say it's an understanding to agree to disagree. It's just an understanding sometimes when we're on the phone, the result is just an understanding that we can only rely on technology for so much.
Yeah.
That the phone's gonna die, that people's batteries run out, that there's other ways in which how we could look at what it is that's going on. Like that might be the result. And again, that result circles back up to the belief that sometimes I don't know what's going on. Right? So I do this in a couple of different ways. One is to orient people to the CBEAR's method so that I take them through and show them how your circumstance, what the circumstance is when you remove, the emotions, the beliefs, and all those sorts of things. Just see it as the naked truth. And then what happens in terms of beliefs that lead to emotions, that lead to actions, that lead to results. And that's the typical way to run. For those who are going to grow and who want to grow with this, I went through a full week of doing CBEARs, a full week and a half. And now for the last 4 or 5 days, I've been actually tapping into who it is that I want to be, tapping into my higher self. And then when I have a circumstance, I had a circumstance that happened on Friday. Was it Friday, Thursday? I had a circumstance that happened Thursday night, and I immediately felt the emotion. And then I realized that I wasn't present, that I was automatically just reacting. And so I paused and I said to myself, okay, let me rewrite the circumstance so that I take away all of the things that make me feel, that made me feel like it's an attack or, so on and so forth. Let me just make it a natural fact.
Okay.
And then I said, what is the result that I want out of this situation? And that took me a while because part of me was like, my ego kept saying, well, the result is to say, the hell with you, don't call me no more. Right. But the God in me said, we love without conditions.
Right.
So what I wanted the result to be was that regardless of what, the circumstance that was happening, the result is that I love and they understand that I love them. Okay, so what do I need to believe about this circumstance in order to have that end result? What does that belief lead me to in terms of my emotion? What does that motion do in terms of my action? So then in my situation, they asked me, he said, I'm sorry that happened. Are you okay? Me going through this process helped me think about how to react in a way that got the result that I wanted, because ultimately I'm love. I live a lifestyle grounded in unconditional love. And so what is it that I have to believe? And in this case, for me, it was about not only believe about the circumstance, but believe about me, the one who's viewing the circumstance.
Wow. Beautiful.
And this is the work that I go through every single day, so much so to the point now that I think divine is trying to tell me, chill, bro. We want you to have fun too. We want you to embrace the playful side. We want you to manage the energies in a way. But I am finding it very helpful for me to get out of the automatic response that I'm accustomed to. It's causing me to be more clear as to why being present is so important. That's the only way that I'm able to get to a point of thinking specifically about the circumstance without the extra. For me to think about what is it that I believe that causes this emotion, and how many times have I just willy-nilly had a circumstance happen, and 20 minutes later I'm getting results that I don't want, and I haven't even thought about, well, what is it that I believe? What is it that I'm feeling? What did I do? Okay, well, that's why I didn't get what I wanted to get. So I'm gonna stop there because that's all I got for y'all. I just want to kind of share that with you all. Again, my mental health and my emotional health have just kind of really jumped up as I started to see this. I've come to recognize that the brain does three things. One, it seeks pleasure. It seeks pleasure, avoids pain. And in many ways, it expends minimal effort on focusing on the past. But it does have this goal of survival, that oftentimes our minds, our egos are really trying to seek pleasure, to avoid pain, and to put in as minimal amount of work as possible. And so that's why being present, being mindful with the CBEAR technique is really a recipe for helping us, deal with cognitive dissonance. It helps us, really, internalize, what's going on with us, and not to always get into the habit of thinking that we are a victim of yet another unhealed person causing us harm. Right. It helps us to reconsider that when things, when we feel some type of way about things that happen to us, that we are careful to not attach a meaning to that without thinking it. We're attaching meaning so quick and not seeing the association with the result, that then we just, we just get into a deep dive and a spiral. So I'll stop there. That's all I got for y'all. I hope that was helpful. I'll open it up for any questions or thoughts or feedback.
I see this method as helping each of us when we stop and think about it and consciously go through each of those 5 steps. Yeah, 5 steps. In analyzing whatever situation we're in, it will help us to be more peaceful, more understanding. And it just helps us, I think, to live a stress-free, a more less stressful life. I'm not going to say more stress.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of you, Harriet, because just being able to sit back and look at the circumstance objectively, without having to, just to see it as it is. I think that is generally so important. I don't have to put a judgment on it right away just because, because I see something. And it's taken me many years just to realize that I don't have to be, I'm not at the center of everything. Everything is not a lot of this stuff doesn't have anything to do with me. I don't have to have a thought about it. I don't have to, anything. I can just simply let it go, and it doesn't affect me. So I think that this in life is helping me, this type of process, and paying attention to the circumstance. And this helps me know how much I've grown too. Because there was a time where I did get involved in things that I didn't need to, but now I understand that I have grown up past that. I have learned many lessons, and this process is going to help me understand that when I change what I believe about something, I'm going to get the result of what my new belief is. So
Right. Yeah, I'll tell you, what I started figuring out here recently is there is one belief that I am beginning to incorporate in everything, regardless of the circumstance. And that belief is that I am a divine being having a human experience.
Amen.
All right now.
Now,
like
once I accept, and it's not as much accepting it as it is integrating it into my daily, operation. But then when I understand that, it reminds me that God and the universe isn't something that dwells simply outside of me, but it's also inside of me, which allows me to be receptive of the messages and check myself when I'm doing thoughts around the messages.
We had this discussion not too long ago.
Huh?
I said, didn't we have this discussion not too long ago?
Yep.
We did.
Yep. And so then the beliefs, and so what I'm slowly but surely, coming to terms with, and is that for me, everything comes down to the belief of who I am, which is contrary to what the society and the world and sometimes the church may tell us who we are. That we are, if God is the sun, we are sun rays, we are extensions, we are connected. And so, so I push back a lot of times when people say, well, no, just that's only human. And I just say, yeah, you're right. I said, things become different when you realize that you're more than that.
Right.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Richard, thank you so much for being part of our group today. It was very beneficial and very powerful. And so it allowed me to understanding that I am. More importantly, is that we're all here on a journey. And with this journey, we have our ups and downs. But what you've helped me, that I have to be connected to my own thinking, is to trust God when he speaks to me and act on what God tells me. So I want to say thank you for allowing me to get that clarity, Richard.
Amen. And the only thing I'll say in addition to that is, and just try to push the last point is, when you say trust God, I want you to also think about trust the God in you. which will
Right.
which will always remind you of how important you are, how how you can have confidence and trust in your thoughts
And in
without the
yourself.
thinking around them, right?
Mm.
Right.
That's that
So
intuition.
yeah, I have a
Yeah.
clear understanding that I am made in the image of God. So
Mhm.
I understand exactly
Mhm.
what you said. We've had the conversation before, so I'm on board with that. But I just want to let you know, for myself, I'm going through a situation now with my living situations. So my thinking, is it right time to move it? I get all these negative thoughts when God already
Mhm.
told me it's already planned for me. If He's brought me through some situation, this situation is minute to what I've been through. So I want you to tell me that I can now act in God in me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful. Thank you. Anybody else? Because I don't have 2 hours worth of content. I have an hour and a half. So I got y'all through 3:30, 3:37,
Well,
3:38.
for me, y'all, I know I want to say thank you, Richard, because I know that I'm on the right path with my life. I'm not perfect, but I'm on the right path. I've learned, and then listening to you today, the circumstances in life that I'm not in control of, I no longer let it take control of me.
Right.
Right.
I've learned to let go and let God. And my life has been more peaceful. Now I say it's been peaceful like this here for the last 2 years, because I used to get riled up about the least little thing. And when I reflect sometimes and sit back, I laugh at myself. Why did I even get upset over that?
Right.
It was meaningless.
Right.
I don't know. I think Father Time has taught me that too, because I'm 73. I'm past, I'm living on borrowed time now. Through the grace of God, when I say that, He's going to close my eyes when He's ready. But I'm so glad I'm at this stage in my life where I am truly peaceful. I no longer have to get up. Well, I got to go catch this sale. I got to do this. I got to do that. Yesterday I was supposed to do everything that I'm doing today while I've been talking to y'all, interacting with y'all. I've been washing clothes. I said, oh, the hell with the clothes yesterday. I just take time for me sometimes.
Right.
It's a good feeling.
Right. 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 And I heard something in there that because I've been doing CBEAR so much that I even do it when people are talking. And so when you said I'm on borrowed time, I was like, ooh, that's a belief. And how does that belief, and listening to you, I heard that belief reflected in your emotion, that reflected in your actions, that reflected in your results. Everything that you said, then I ran through the Bears piece. So it is for me becoming a way of being. That it's not, it's I share it with people as a tool. As I'm still starting to incorporate it into my daily being, but what I'm also starting to test and work through is how is it not just a tool, but it's just a habit, a natural way in which how I process things. And so that's becoming really interesting, because again, I told somebody the other night, somebody said, no man, I ain't nothing, I ain't nobody. I was like, okay, well, if that's what you believe, then that's why you have the emotions that you have, beloved. You believe that you're not nobody, and you have these emotions. And because you have those emotions, now that translates to your codependent techniques, your tendencies to seek approval and whatnot from outside, sources. And then you always get the results that then support the fact that you think that you're nobody, that you're nothing. I said, so it all begins with what you believe about yourself. And for people, like me, you all and her and others who have unresolved, unhealed, unaddressed, issues of the past and traumas and the like, that we get into these belief systems about ourselves and we live in them and we carry them with us like luggage. And and it's like we're always on a trip and we never unpack.
Oh, I like that you said that, because we spoke on this yesterday. Well, I spoke on it. You know, I always knew I was a kind-hearted person from a child. I knew this, but I had a mother that you're so stupid. You're just like your stupid ass father. Excuse the profanity, y'all. You know, and I'm not gonna go, but I just didn't have a good relationship with my mother, right? Because she never met. I always felt worthless. But the further I got away from her and got out in the world, you know, I wouldn't advise anyone to marry at 16. But I'm just saying, and got out there and started living life. I said, I am a kind person. I am a loving person, you know. And I've learned not to carry her baggage on my back anymore.
Right.
You know, because I used to cry. Just to talk about my mother would break me down, because you don't understand how a person give life and be so. But I'm not the only one that has a mother like that.
Right.
And I realized that, you know, and I said, God, thank you. I thank him every day that I have a good, and I'm not saying we're perfect, but I have a good loving relationship with my children, my grandchildren. We never hang up the phone. And when they call to check on me, hey, Grams, I have some call me Grams, some call me Grandma. You know, our last words to each other is, I love you.
Right. Right.
You know, and when I stopped, I had to hear my mother tell me she loved me when she was dying. You know, and like you said, I learned that. I said, that's her baggage. You know, I don't know what happened to her in her childhood. Meeting Penny told me, how long have I been coming to interfaith, Penny? I don't even know.
Yeah, a couple of years now, at least 3.
Well, I would talk to her privately on the phone concerning, you know, my childhood, how things was just rough for me. I'm not talking about materialistic thing. I'm talking about loving and emotion, feeling. Okay. And she said one key thing to me. Tell your mother, even though your mother's gone, Joe, tell her you love her. And I've grown to, I always knew I loved her, but I didn't like her. You know, and I thank you for that, Penny, because before I would talk about this, the conversations I'm having now, I break down and boo like a baby. So I know I'm healing within, because we do carry baggage, you know.
Yeah, we do.
Raising 2 grandchildren. My granddaughter came up to me, this is a while ago, y'all, and said, Grandma, I just want to thank you for never telling me my father was in shit or my mother was in shit. You know, we can put things in children, you know, but what children need is love. All of us need love. I'm a 73-year-old woman, and I still long for love. You know, but I'm glad I have, because I almost forgot you. I was listening to my gospel music. I done put some clothes in the laundry. You know, when I sat down and listened to the music, it was 9 something. And I said, oh, it's after 10 o'clock. I told them I'd be with them today. I appreciate all of y'all. Appreciate you, Richard, my second time being in your presence, but I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you all for that. That's really, it's really affirming. And 2 things I'll say, and then we'll get a prayer. I'll pass it back over to Penny. The first is, you know, a lot of the examples that I use today generally were about the situations that we face, you know, in the present place. But it becomes, but I also want you all to remember that this is also a process that you can use to look back at the past. And Joanne, your example parallels mine in a way where I had to sit down. I sat down in tears last week, reflecting on my childhood, what I remember, and the stories that I created around it that actually prevented me from seeing how messed up it was.
Yes.
Right. And so then when I was able to take a moment and revisit the circumstance and look at it in a neutral way, it it made my mother less of the villain.
Yes.
And it put me into a process of checking what my belief was, because my belief was how she treated me. And that led to a certain emotion and an action and a result that I'm uncovering, saying recently. But what this process also made me do is it made me check my belief and consider what was it that my mother faced that caused her to be the way she was, and all she was doing was passing on to me what she thought was normal behavior, which impacted me having kids and what my actions were or weren't. And then also how those actions have changed and evolved as I've started to grow and understand reality and my role. And at least for the last 6 months now, I've been actively engaged with both of my daughters, fixing some of the lessons.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
And connecting with them in a way that that I've never experienced a father connecting to kids, so much so to the point now that I just decided, because part of my process also is having to pause and rewrite the future that I want.
Yes.
I wrote a future that involved people and things and whatnot that really take the power away from me, and it's dependent on other factors. So I had to rewrite that future, and one of the aspects of that future is that I want to take my daughters to Spain for 4 days.
It'd be awesome.
And I've already, matter of fact, on my Facebook post, I posted it. Like, I'm starting to change my Facebook post now. Like, I'm starting to talk more about, what kind of future I want to create. I want a bathroom that looked like this. I want a house like that. I want to take these kind of trips. My Facebook stuff is starting to look more like a vision board, every now and then mixed in with some healing messages and whatnot. But I've noticed that I've started to spend more time creating the picture of what it is I want to create, because I know who I want to be.
Yes.
When I start to identify what the results are that I want of that being, then it helps me reinforce
the action.
Well, my belief in who I am, that I'm a divine being. And you daggone right, I can spend $2,500 for a 4-night stay in Spain with my daughters.
Right.
It's all right.
You can do it. You
right?
can do it, because I believe that I could go to Paris when I was 65. I went to Paris for 9 days. I believed I can go to Hawaii. Just working hard and not doing the things that you love.
Right.
So I like your attitude. And the fathers today are a little different from the fathers from my generation. Y'all are more bonding with your children, spending more time. And my father, and I'm not knocking him, he had to always work. And when he did have hours off, he was tired and wanted to rest. So I understand. And I love the part what you said, once I started telling my mother to myself, I love you, Mom. Every day still talk, it just changed the whole thing around. And I started looking, not just looking, thinking, what did she go through to make her act the way she did with me?
Right. And really rethink what love is.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
And I think that's been the challenge that I've gone through. And I might sound crazy, but I'll tell anybody in a heartbeat, because I got the thought and accepted the thought without the thinking. And it was, I am love. And I have the ability to have unconditional love for any and everybody and everything.
There you go.
And then when you begin with that, for me, the challenge then was having to remove old ways of thinking, but then also identify how society continues to push a conditional love or a transactional love, that then says, okay, well, if you do me wrong, then I'm going to do
Mhm.
X.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Mhm.
say why, which oftentimes, if you watch real carefully, those reactions are the manipulation that I'm going to
Mhm.
do
Mm.
X to make you pay or make you do what it is I want to do. So, this has really just opened up a whole new way of being that, a lot of people, struggle with, is in my recent conversations. Like, yeah, that don't make any sense. It's okay. I get it. I understand. I'm just saying, if you do anything, consider the fact that you are capable of receiving unconditional love and loving unconditionally. And
That's
if you
right.
can start with that belief, then your journey is going to go in a crazy direction. And lastly, I noticed that when I started to make that change, because I've been on that particular journey for a year, 2 years now, trying to
Mhm.
figure out how to love unconditionally, that once I started to chase that rather than some of this other crap,
Right.
the world has opened up. I've gotten
Yes.
so many clients, 6
Mhm.
figures.
Mhm.
Like, I'm just really in a beautiful space, and the business is continuing to grow. Divine is saying,
That's good.
you come into your message, you are doing exactly what it is that we need you to do. But remember, you still got some work to do. They always be reminding me. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate just being able to test this out with you all. And Penny, I'll pass it back to you.
Well, first of all, just thank you so much. And like I said, you can come in, and we will always be your guinea pigs. We
Yeah.
love. One of the things that I learned so much. One of the things I learned so much today really is uh this really helps you stay focused on the now. You
Mhm.
know, when you first pay attention to a circumstance, just trying to figure, okay, is this a circumstance, or is this a circumstance? Just following this bear's process, it's coming. First of all, it's coming at the time in my life when I'm trying to work. I'm working on doing this anyway. So this uh, divine alignment. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Also, one of the things that I'm also seeing in this program is you're so smooth, you're so cool, you know. So of course, and the rhythm of the way you speak, and how you interact with all of us, you know, I can imagine that yes, your business is going to grow and become greater and greater and greater. And you're kind of like born to this. So, I really appreciate your coming in and doing all of this with us. So that lets me feel that makes us feel good, because how much you entrust um, our dear souls.
Right.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that you're aboard. Welcome aboard. Um, Another thing I just wanted to say about this program, and if anybody else wants to say something, I know it's on, it is almost time to go. If anybody else want to just kind of jump in, um, how how efficient this program seems to be. I mean, it seems to be something that you can actually do in a moment in time. All
Mhm.
throughout the day. So, how do y'all feel about that? That
I
if it's
agree.
First, I
Okay.
agree. But when you say CBEAR, you mean the word SEEBEAR or C? Which? Because I get a little confused. I'm thinking, is
oh,
it SEA?
oh
Nah.
yeah.
The C is for the C is for circumstance, so it's actually the letter C.
Uh-huh.
And most
Okay.
times, and the way that I'm actually going to start, the way I'm going to start saying it is, see your bear. So
Okay.
this
When you say see your bear, you mean BEAR or
BEAR,
BARE?
yeah. B is for
AR.
Okay.
belief,
Uh-huh.
B is for belief, E is
Uh-huh.
for emotion,
Mm-hmm.
A is for action,
Yeah,
R
I
is
got
for result. Yeah, yeah.
because I wrote down CBEAR. I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta ask that.
Oh yeah, you missed the first one was circumstance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Thank
right.
you.
For
Thank you.
circumstance. Yeah, yeah.
And what I was going to say is I just see it as an exercise that I need to get in the habit of practicing, I would say on an hourly basis, because whatever the situation is, there's a circumstance.
Mhm.
Right.
And I need to go through the bear part of it with every situation or circumstance that I encounter throughout my day.
Yeah.
And thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah.
Love you
It's really
too.
good. It really helps you
You
focus
humble,
on this
Richard.
now.
I
Appreciate
see all
you.
your humbleness. You're a very humble gentleman. You know,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I need them. I don't come every week like yesterday is just so crazy how you talk. Yesterday we was talking about belief.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Yeah.
they said you was coming on today. I had no idea we would be talking about this topic, and I truly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that's divine kind of lending us all to the point of recognizing that, you know, our forward progress or our standing still is
Yeah.
largely dependent on how much attention we pay to what
Yeah.
we believe.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because a
Mhm.
lot of our beliefs are grounded in what people have told us rather than what
Yes.
we innately, you know,
Right.
Yes.
know. And that's, you know, conditioning and all
And
that. So.
and some of those beliefs are so deep seated, it takes quite a bit of digging to get it out.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But also remember, we didn't give any, you know, major examples today, but there are some beliefs that are positive. And so
Yes.
the thing about
Exactly.
this
Yeah.
also is that there's time frames when I go through things, even when I'm happy. And and again, sometimes, and just our last thing is sometimes we don't even know what the circumstance is because he was so focused on the emotion. Right. So that's the other thing that this process does is it helps me to pause for a moment and say, well, wait, what the hell is it that I'm reacting to?
Mhm.
And then I start
Yes.
picking up, okay. And then it's like, well, then I have to go on a side quest. It's like, so why is that bothering me? And then
Right.
that's when you start getting into the deeper truths about what mama said and what daddy won't
Yeah.
there and, you know, so on. So thank y'all. I appreciate the feedback.
But I did want to say that Inner Haven this is a belief. I believe that there were other people out here like me. I did. I believe that there were other people out here in the world that thought like I did. I could not have been the only one. And I love our group of people, you know. I love our group of people. We challenge one another, you know, from even from a conversational point. So I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate you, Richard, coming in. I think that's it for today. Let's see what else did I have to well, let's see. Wednesday we have Course in Miracles from 5 to 6:30. Thursday we're gonna go back to I Am with Forrest on Thursday mornings from 11 to 12, and then on from 7 to 8:30 we will be having our book flight. I'm really excited about that. It's such a fun book. And I think that's it because that's it for September anyway. I mean, yeah, that's it for October, and I'll get into September next time.
Okay. Okay.
No, that's it for August.
What did I say?
You said October.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, then that's not good. I'm glad y'all paying attention. Don't follow me, everybody. I don't know what time it is, but I don't believe in time. Honestly, I really don't. I guess y'all can see. So that's it for today. Is it any questions or comments that or anything that y'all want to say before we go?
Just
Okay,
thank you.
oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Joanne, would you like to close us out in prayer?
No, I wouldn't.
No? Okay. Harriet, or you prayed us in. I'll pray us out. Okay. Let's just settle back for a moment. Allow ourselves to be patient with ourselves, to love ourselves, to open our hearts and our minds to the one source that that source is all that there is all power, all strength, all knowing, all presence, everywhere, everywhere, all the time. That immense presence, the essence, lives inside of these individualized bodies. These minds are its connection. Let's allow ourselves to stay connected, and open our hearts and open our minds to the fullness of our oneness and alignment with this essence. And let's just every day just be thankful, just have so much gratitude for just being alive and being in this space and time. And now we understand that, once we believe something, we can we can achieve it. That is our destination. So with that, we just release wholeness, peace, victory, abundance, transparency, and love into this space, into our homes, into our community, the nation, and this world. And with that, we say, and so it is.
And so it is. You all have a blessed week.
All right, darling.
Love
Love you.
you.
Bye.
All right, love you. Thank y'all.
Bye. Bye, y'all.
Great job, Richard.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great job.
I'll tell y'all, I actually have a workbook. So when I do this one, there's a workbook that's going to accompany it with some content around the CBEARS method. And there's like 5 or 6 pages where I have like a graphic that people can actually fill in for how they, right now, being self-aware of who I am now, what's the circumstance, what's the belief, what's the emotion, so on. And then coming from a higher self, what's the result? And so I actually have a document, a workbook that people will have to kind of walk through it, and I'll teach it. And then I think what I'll have them do is go off and find 3 examples, use it 3 times. And then we meet the next week and we share with each other our examples. Because I think something that's important is that everybody experiences this.
Sounds like a class, Richard.
So it is. So that one. And the one that I did with y'all before, like I'm developing a lot of mini courses to get ready to open up this Good Ancestors Healing curriculum. So
Great.
Great.
Okay.
So thank y'all. I'm gonna go for a walk, and I will see y'all on Wednesday.
All right. Thank you.
Love you.
Bye.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye. All of that was recorded, Penny.
Oh yeah, that was okay.